Yes, I. Greetings in the mighty name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie the First, you know? Snowy day in England, as you can see. You see it, and like the road are getting a treatment last night again, neither. So, you find say, snowed up on the ground and it, kind of a struggle for the driver them. But you don't know, it's today. Today we are touch upon another one of our great Jamaicans who seem to have been forgotten with time, and not really forgotten with time, but his impressions in the earth has been diluted by the system, the powerful system who he found himself up against. You understand me? This man that I'm about to talk about also represents humble beginnings and reach to, big world stage, not only representing Jamaica, but representing black people and the development of Africa and our whole. This man has done so much that it is a shame and a disgrace for him not to be revered and recognized a lot more and held to higher esteem by the Jamaican political system or establishment. You understand what I say? Anyway, most of these information where I divulge in regards to these very interesting and honorable characters through our history, and I usually read them from certain sources. You understand what I say? Just as not to construe anything or give a personal opinion of such. You get me? But basically just to highlight the steps that these people have made through earth and positive steps of such. No, without any further chatting from my part, because you don't know. I'm gonna do some maths, because somebody tell me something for go learn for read. So it look like say and I read me, I read. I must maths me. So I'll do some maths. Yeah. Best known for as lawyer, Pan-African activist, defend Jomo Kenyatta biography. Dudley Thompson is a man of many distinctions, regarded as an intellectual and long-standing Pan-Africanist, a friend and colleague of George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, C.L.R. James, Julius Nyerere, and M.K.O. Abiola. Thompson in his early years fought as pilot in active combat during his tenure in the RAF. As a lawyer, he has defended Jomo Kenyatta during the Mama trial in Kenya, played an effective role in the independence movement of both Belize and Bahamas. In Jamaica, he has held a variety of official positions and was awarded the Order of Jamaica, one of Jamaica's most prestigious decorations, for a distinguished service in the field of international affairs and his contribution to the legal developments in Jamaica. Awarded a medal by the OAU as a Legend of Africa. Source AFIWI.com, official website of Dudley Thompson. Excerpt from an interview with Irving W. Andre for King and Country, Andre and Christian, 2008. In 1940, an unlikely incident caused a dramatic change in the trajectory of Thompson's life. On a propitious day, he found himself within the confines of a dentist's office in Kingston, Jamaica. As he waited his turn, he picked up a magazine which had excerpts. From Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. Thompson started reading out of interest and a necessity born out of anxiety engendered by his impending encounter with the dentist. Soon, however, his attention was riveted to the magazine. Enraged, he read the German leaders' disparaging views about Negroes. He was immediately gripped by a sudden anger and desire to fly to Germany and teach a lesson in civility to the German leader. At that moment, Dudley Thompson's teaching career was over. Resolutely, he decided to join the war effort. He took a ship to Canada to train as a pilot. Upon his arrival, the authorities advised that it would take 2 years training before he could qualify as a pilot. Thompson did not want to wait that long. He felt that the war would end before he qualified. He therefore decided to return to Jamaica and travel to England instead. Accompanied by approximately 10 of his compatriots, Thompson boarded a ship to England. The ship docked in Ireland. They took a train to Liverpool, and Thompson, within days of his arrival, gravitated towards the RAF recruitment center. His timing was impeccable. The application form contained an ominous question: are you of pure European descent? Many highly qualified West Indian applicants had been rejected on account of this requirement. When Thompson applied, however, it was not rigidly enforced because of the need for more pilots. Upon completing the form, Thompson replied yes to the question. A burly recruitment officer reviewed the form, stared insolently at the fair-complexioned Thompson, and asked him if he had understood the question. "What made you believe I did not understand the question?" Thompson retorted. The officer stared but did not reply. He accepted the form along with that of 3 of Thompson's compatriots. He would train at the officers' training college at Cranwell. Thenceforth, he got his wish and flew as a member of a Lancaster bomber air crew over Europe between 1941 and 1945. He earned several war decorations as a flight lieutenant. The exemplary life of Honorable Dudley Thompson, OJ, and QC. On January 20, 2012, Royal Air Force RAF veteran of World War II, Dudley Thompson of Jamaica, breathed his last. Thompson was a proud Jamaican and Caribbean nationalist and integrationist. He was a champion of Pan-Africanism. Indeed, he revealed to the authors of For King and Country that he organized the 1945 Pan-African Conference in Manchester, England, while still clad in the uniform of a RAF flight lieutenant. The excerpts provide some insight into this towering figure of our Caribbean and the African diaspora who dedicated his life to our freedom and betterment. May we always remember him, Rastafari. On March 4, 2008, Gabriel Christian and I spoke to Honorable Dudley Thompson, legendary educator, World War II fighter pilot, Rhodes Scholar, brilliant lawyer, former Attorney General of Jamaica, Pan-Africanist, ambassador, and artist. Dudley Thompson had weaved a wide swath on the intellectual and ideological landscape from Kingston to Kenya, and even in retirement had gained prominence as an anti-colonial and post-colonial thinker. His name is mentioned in same breath with other West Indian intellectual and radical thinkers such as C.L.R. James, George Padmore, and Amy Césaire. Even at 92, with the majority of his contemporaries deceased, Thompson maintained a grueling schedule which would test the mettle of a man 2 decades younger. He spearheads the international drive for reparation for the descendants of African slaves, regularly gives lectures in the United States, and conducts numerous interviews about his life experiences. It was therefore with a sense of elation that, via a long-distance telephone call, Christian and I posed a few questions to Thompson about his wartime experiences. He harbored great expectations about gleaning some details about his experiences, given that we had a very interesting conversation with fellow World War II pilot Judge Ulrich Cross. The salient details about Thompson's life have been set out in his autobiography From Kingston to Kenya, The Making of a Pan-Africanist Lawyer. It has also been canvassed in numerous books, articles, and speeches, but we had admonished ourselves that the story is in the details. A life that spanned so many decades would have had twists and turns waiting to be unearthed at each new telling. And so, with surprisingly clear voice of Thompson resonating over the telephone, punctuated my chuckles and hearty laughs, we learn of our subject's life, including his World War II experience. He was born on January 17, 1917 in Panama of middle-class parents. His father, a teacher, had traveled to Panama for work purposes and had returned to Jamaica in 1927. The senior Thompson ensured that his son was well schooled in the rudiments of English, history, mathematics, and Latin, and with strict discipline and a near ascetic livelihood provides his son with the intellectual and indeed moral foundation for a meaningful life in colonial Jamaica. Dudley Thompson grew up in Westmoreland and was weaned on an intellectual and moral diet concocted by his father. Not surprisingly, upon completion of high school, he won a scholarship to the Michael Teachers College, where he trained as a teacher for 3 years. After completing his studies, Thompson went to teach first in the parish of St. Mary and then in that of Westmoreland. In 1940, an unlikely incident caused a dramatic change in trajectory of Thompson's life. I've already read that part. See? Yeah. During his tour of duty, he experienced little racial hostility. See? No, all right. He would train at the Officers Training College at Cranwell. Thenceforth, he got his wish and flew as a member of an air crew over Europe between 1941 and 1945. He earned several war decorations as a flight lieutenant. During his tour of duty, he experienced little racial hostility. In one incident, a white South African attacked him without provocation. I am afraid I damaged him, Thompson noted succinctly. Following the end of the war, he worked with Ulrich Cross in the Colonial Office as a liaison officer before returning to Jamaica. An unlikely incident initiated his interest in law and served as a prelude for a lifelong career in the legal profession. Returning, Jamaican RAF officers on a Sweden ship, the Bergensford, armed themselves and assumed control of the ship after being insulted by white Trinidadian officers about the quality of their service during the war. As senior Jamaican RAF officer on the island, Thompson was asked to mediate. He got the Jamaican men to lay down their arms and arranged for the ship to dock at Kingston, where they would be met by their families. The authorities, however, had the ship dock at a Port Royal coaling station, where armed soldiers with rifles drawn await the men. Thompson quickly arranged for the greeting party to withdraw their arms. The disembarkation proceeded without incident until one of the returning men, Corporal Alexander, suddenly punched the white officer. Colonel Danglish, who commanded the troops on the ground following his arrest, Alexander asked Thompson to represent him. Colonel Danglish stormed out of the proceeding in the ensuing court-martial proceeding. Let me read that part there again. The authorities, however, had the ship dock at a Port Royal coaling station where armed soldiers with rifles drawn await the men. Thompson quickly arranged for the greeting party to withdraw their arms. The disembarkation proceeded without incident until one of the returning men, Corporal Alexander, suddenly punched the white officer. Colonel Danglish, who commanded the troops on the ground following his arrest, Alexander asked Thompson to represent him. Colonel Danglish stormed out of the proceeding in the ensuing court-martial proceeding. Unable or unwilling to withstand Thompson's withering cross-examination, with Danglish's departure, the prosecution's case folded and Alexander was exonerated. Flight Lieutenant Dudley Thompson was soon awarded a Rhodes Scholarship, which took him to Oxford, where he graduated with a master's degree in jurisprudence and later a bachelor in civil law. For a period, he served as president of the West Indian Students' Union and interacted with Eugene Clark, later Prime Minister of Dominica, while she served as an executive member. In 1950, he was called to the bar in London from the Gray's Inn. He was tutored by Sir Dinglefoot, a future Solicitor General of the United Kingdom. By 1950, Dudley Thompson was at a professional crossroads. His logical next step would have been to return to Jamaica to set up a lucrative law practice and occupy an exalted place in the island's social circle. Indeed, Norman Washington Manley QC, who would become Jamaica's Prime Minister and national hero, offered him a position in his law firm. That Manley would make him an offer which virtually every West Indian barrister would accept. Was a tremendous honor, and yet family circumstance conspired to prevent him from doing so. Thompson had gotten married a few years earlier and had two children. A son had gotten ill and showed no sign of recuperating. When asked what could be done, the family doctor recommended a warm, dry climate for Thompson's ailing son. The doctor knew the ideal place for his young patient's recuperation, specifically Tanganyika in East Africa. And so Thompson responded in his words to a call of blood. It was the best decision I ever made, he added. He had good reason for this admission. He traveled to East Africa and practiced law in Kenya and Tanganyika. He became close friends with the country's future leaders, Jomo Kenyatta and Julius Nyerere. Indeed, the highlight of his legal career was his successful defense of the farmer, along with legal heavyweights such as H.O.A. Davis of Nigeria and D.N. Pritt QC. The irony of this momentous legal battle was not lost on Thompson. The colonial who had taken up arms against the empire's arch-enemy was now engaged in a tough battle against the mother country in defense of one who had taken up arms against the injustice of the same mother country. In the ensuing years, Thompson built a solid reputation as an excellent advocate. He interacted easily with influential African leaders such as Kenyatta, Kwame Nkrumah, and Nyerere. When the latter sought a chief justice for his fledgling country, Thompson served as a reference for the brilliant Dominican jurist Telford George, who ultimately got the nod for the position. Thompson left a lucrative practice in Africa to return to Jamaica in the early 1960s on the eve of the island's attainment of national independence. It was the best and worst of time. Jamaica was in the throes of despair and jubilation, having opted out of the West Indies Federation. Norman Washington Manley would fight a valiant but losing political battle against his nemesis and cousin Alexander Bustamante. Thompson would join the fray when widely referred to as Burning Spear, a nickname of Jomo Kenyatta. He fought and surprisingly lost a grueling electoral battle against Jamaica's future Prime Minister Edward Seaga. Thompson recovered quickly, however, and immersed himself in his law practice. In 1962, he became president of the Jamaica Bar Association, a position he held for many years. He practiced in many islands, including Trinidad, Barbados, St. Kitts, Dominica, the Bahamas, and Grenada. He was appointed a Queen's Counsel in 1963. He also played a role in the independence movement of both Belize and Bahamas. Politics, however, remained a central preoccupation. Thompson was a vice president of the People's National Party. He became a member of both the Senate of Jamaica and later a member of its House of Representatives. With the triumph of Michael Manley at the polls in 1972, Thompson would occupy a slew of important cabinet posts, including Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Security, and Minister of Mines and National Resource. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, Thompson traveled with Manley to Cuba in the mid-1970s for a secret meeting with Fidel Castro. The latter took them to his summer retreat and spread out a map on a table. Castro pointed to the unimpeded access which the South African military forces had to destabilize the entire region with its apartheid philosophy. The Cuban leader pointed out that but for the intervention of his forces and the decisive victories in repulsing the apartheid forces, Southern Africa would have degenerated into a racist redoubt for the South African government. Thompson also played a significant role as an ambassador of Jamaica. He helped negotiate the contract. He helped renegotiate. Importantly, people, pay attention to this. Thompson also played a significant role as an ambassador of Jamaica. He helped renegotiate the contracts with the bauxite and alumina multinationals and a crucial role in the formation of the International Bauxite Association. He also figured prominently in securing Jamaica as the permanent site for the International Seabed Authority in Kingston. Such an extraordinary lifetime of service to the cause of freedom and African liberation rarely goes unnoticed or unheralded. Dudley Thompson has not surprisingly received a number of accolades, including the Order of Jamaica, a gold medal from Michael College, and another from the Organization of African States, recognizing his status as a legend of Africa in 1992. He was empaneled as a member of the group of eminent persons charged with implementing the movement for reparations to Africa and the diaspora. Flight Lieutenant Dudley J. Thompson, the man who left Jamaica to bomb the daylights out of Adolf Hitler, has soared to the stratosphere of success in his life, and in so doing has made the world a better place for generations of people worldwide. Yeah, so in a lot of my story, I always talk about the backside where they get given to America for 50 cents a ton. You get what I say? But I never really going on a word about details, but it's a very interesting subject. You understand what I say? But that was the reference that it made to the renegotiation process that Dudley Thompson did in order for Jamaica to start getting a bit of benefit from its own backside, because America actually, Seaga actually gave it to America as a reward for putting him in the position of C. Gave it to America for 50 cents a ton and a 100-year lease. So even now, it would have still be that price at money. Boy, but I just one of them things that still. So, more bless, more love, more life. And I hope it make sense out of the maths so I just do. You don't know, a little brethren say, I'm going to learn for read, you know, see it. But somebody have to do it. And hopefully one of them more educated characters, pick up the task and the direction, see it. Yes, Rasta, more blessed, don't know. Share, like, and subscribe. Mad love. Rastafari.